The first sign something was wrong appeared in the numbers. I've always had an eye for financial irregularities. It comes with the territory when you're both a data analyst and the financial backbone of a successful tech startup. The spreadsheet glowed on my laptop screen in the dim light of our home office. The numbers illuminated like a roadmap to betrayal. $7 million transferred to Reed Innovations over the past 6 months. $7 million that I never approved. $7 million of our family money, including the inheritance my mother left me before she passed. I scrolled through the transaction history, my heart pounding against my ribs. The transfers were methodical, strategic, made on days when Ethan knew I'd be too busy to check our accounts. My husband of 20 years, Ethan Parker, the charming face of our company, had been systematically moving our funds elsewhere. But why? I took a sip of my now cold coffee and typed Reed Innovations into the search bar. The company website appeared, sleek and minimalist, with phrases like revolutionizing AI and next-generation solutions splashed across the page. And there she was, the founder and CEO, Vanessa Reed, young, beautiful, confident, with chestnut hair cascading over her shoulders and a smile that radiated ambition. Something cold settled in my stomach as I studied her face. The next morning, I called James Davenport, a private investigator recommended by my lawyer friend. I need information on Reed Innovations and its connection to Ethan Parker, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. James, I'll need access to your financial records in about a week's time. I nodded, then remembered he couldn't see me. You'll have everything today, and James' discretion is crucial. For the next week, I maintained a perfect facade. I smiled over breakfast as Ethan talked about the upcoming Tech Summit Global. I asked the right questions about our company, DataSphere Technologies. I pretended not to notice how often he checked his phone, or how he no longer kissed me goodbye. When James called, I was preparing dinner in our kitchen, the San Francisco skyline visible through the large windows of our Presidio Heights home. James, Mrs. Nguyen, I have the information you requested. Perhaps we should meet in person. The knife I was using to chop vegetables stilled in my hand. Just tell me, I said quietly. James, Vanessa Reed is indeed the founder of Reed Innovations. She's 30 years old, previously worked at 3 failed startups, and has been in a relationship with your husband for approximately 8 months. The knife clattered to the cutting board. James, there's more. The funding transferred to Reed Innovations represents nearly 60% of your family investment fund, and I've confirmed Mr. Parker forged your signature on at least 12 separate transfer authorizations. I thanked James, ended the call, and stood motionless in my kitchen. The expensive appliances, the designer furniture, the view of the Golden Gate Bridge in the distance, all of it suddenly felt like props in someone else's life. I was a fool, a 42-year-old fool who had given up her own career to support her husband's dreams, only to be replaced by a younger model the moment she'd served her purpose. That evening, I texted Ethan, "We need to talk. Meet me at Aquarello at 8. I chose a public place because I didn't trust myself to remain composed in private. I chose an expensive restaurant because I wanted witnesses to my dignity. Ethan arrived late, his tall frame cutting through the dimly lit restaurant with the easy confidence of a man who believed the world was his for the taking. He looked surprised to see me dressed in my best outfit, a sleek black dress with a statement necklace my mother had left me. "Ethan, you look nice." "What's the occasion?" he asked, sliding into the seat across from me. I smiled, a cold, practiced smile that didn't reach my eyes. $7 million, I said softly. His expression froze, then shifted to something calculated. "Ethan, Claire, I've been meaning to talk to you about some financial restructuring I've been doing." "With Vanessa Reed," I interrupted, watching his face carefully. The flicker in his eyes told me everything before he could compose himself. "Ethan, I see you've been snooping through company finances, he said, his tone hardening. Our finances, I corrected. Our family investment fund, my inheritance. The waiter approached with a bottle of champagne I'd pre-ordered. I waved him away. Ethan leaned forward, his voice lowered to avoid the attention of nearby diners. Ethan, look, Claire, things change. Companies evolve. People evolve. His wedding ring caught the light as he gestured dismissively. Ethan, Reed Innovations has breakthrough AI technology that could revolutionize our market position. This is just business. I took a slow sip of water, letting the ice clink against my teeth. And is sleeping with Vanessa Reed also just business? I asked quietly. The color drained from his face, then rushed back. Ethan, I want a divorce, he said bluntly. I've already spoken with my lawyer. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope, sliding it across the pristine tablecloth. Ethan, this is a fair settlement offer. You'll get the house in Presidio Heights and a reasonable cash payment. In return, you'll relinquish all claims to Datasphere Technologies. I didn't touch the envelope. And what about the $7 million you stole from our family fund, the money you took by forging my signature? His eyes narrowed dangerously. Ethan, be careful with accusations like that. Claire, you're not the only one with connections in this town. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Ethan, if you fight me on this, I'll make sure you never work in tech again. No one will hire the bitter ex-wife who couldn't handle being replaced. Take the deal and disappear quietly. I felt something crack inside me, not my heart, but the shell of compliance I'd built around myself over 2 decades of marriage. You really think it'll be that easy? I asked. Ethan smirked, the same confident smirk that had once made me fall in love with him. Ethan, I've already spoken with Ava. She understands that her mother is going through a difficult time and making trouble. She's agreed to give you space. My hand tightened around my water glass. Our daughter, Ava, was my world a brilliant 19-year-old Stanford freshman who had inherited her father's charisma and my analytical mind. He'd gotten to her first. Ethan stood up, straightening his expensive jacket. Ethan, you have 48 hours to accept the offer. After that, things get considerably less generous. He strode out of the restaurant without looking back, leaving me sitting alone at a table set for 2. I didn't cry. Not there. Surrounded by San Francisco's elite dining on $100 entrees, not in the Uber on the way home, not even when I entered our empty house and saw 20 years of memories mocking me from every surface. Instead, I went to my home office and pulled up the financial records James had sent me. 12 forged signatures, 12 instances of wire fraud, 12 federal crimes. I picked up my phone and called the one person I knew would understand. Maya, it's Claire. I need your help. Maya Chen had been my best friend since college, a sharp-tongued tech journalist with contacts throughout Silicon Valley. 3 hours later, she was sitting across from me in my kitchen, a bottle of wine between us. Maya. That absolute piece of garbage, she muttered, scrolling through the evidence on my laptop. He really thought he could get away with this. I wrapped my hands around my wine glass, trying to still their trembling. He still might. He's got Ava believing I'm just being difficult, and you know how powerful he is in the valley. Maya looked up, her eyes sharp behind her vintage glasses. Maya, Claire. Do you remember who made Datasphere's algorithm actually work? Who fixed the code when their first product was failing? Who created the financial structure that saved them from bankruptcy in 2016? She pointed at me with such force I almost smiled. Maya, you did. Ethan is just a pretty face with good presentation skills. You're the backbone of that company. I sighed, pushing my hair back from my face. None of that matters if I can't prove the forgeries in court. And even then, the damage to my reputation. Maya interrupted me with a raised hand. Maya, what if there's another way? A way to get everything back and make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man Ethan Parker really is. She pulled out her tablet and showed me the Tech Summit Global schedule. Look what's featured on the main stage. Day 2. There it was. Reed Innovations. Presenting Revolutionary AI for the New Decade, with Ethan Parker listed as a special guest speaker. Maya. They're planning to announce a major funding round, probably using your stolen money as proof of concept. This is your chance. Claire. Her eyes gleamed with a determined light that I hadn't seen in my own reflection for years. Maya. We're going to take him down at his own game. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stood by the window of our bedroom, looking out at the city lights, and made a decision. I wasn't going to be the woman who disappeared quietly with a settlement check. I was going to be the woman who fought back. The next morning, I called a lawyer specializing in financial fraud. Sarah Jameson listened intently as I laid out the evidence, occasionally nodding or making notes. Sarah, this is textbook wire fraud, Mrs. Nguyen. With these forged signatures, we can not only invalidate the transfers, but potentially press criminal charges. Her voice was calm and professional, but I detected a note of righteous anger beneath. Sarah, how quickly do you want to move on this? I leaned forward. The Tech Summit Global is in 3 weeks. I need control of those funds before then. She nodded, understanding immediately. Sarah, we'll file for emergency injunctive relief. The courts move quickly in cases of clear financial fraud, but be prepared, this will get ugly. I thought of Ethan's threat, of Ava's silence, of $7 million of my mother's money in Vanessa Reed's hands. I'm counting on it, I replied. Maya's next contribution to our plan was unexpected. She arrived at my house the following afternoon with 3 women I'd never met before. Maya, Claire, meet Rebecca, Diane, and Jennifer. They all have something in common. They've all been screwed over by Ethan Parker. Rebecca, a stern-looking woman in her 50s, spoke first. Rebecca. He convinced me to invest in DataSphere's first round, then diluted my shares to practically nothing when bigger investors came in. Diane nodded. Diane. He stole my team's algorithm and claimed it as DataSphere intellectual property. I couldn't afford to fight him in court. Jennifer, the youngest of the 3, had been an early employee. Jennifer. He fired me when I rejected his advances, then blacklisted me across the valley. I had to move to Austin to find work. I invited them in, made coffee, and listened to their stories. By evening, we had a coalition and a plan. Rebecca had connections with the Tech Summit organizers. Diane still had evidence of the stolen algorithm. Jennifer knew former DataSphere employees who could testify to Ethan's pattern of behavior, and Maya had the platform to make sure everyone heard about it. That night, I received a text from Ava. Mom, can we talk? Not at the house. We met at a small cafe near Stanford the next day. My heart ached at the sight of her so grown up in her university sweatshirt, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun, her eyes, Ethan's eyes, troubled. Ava, Dad said you're trying to ruin his big deal because you're jealous of his success, she said without preamble. I took a deep breath. Ava, your father stole $7 million from our family fund by forging my signature. That includes Grandma's inheritance that was meant for your education. Her eyes widened slightly, but she remained skeptical. Ava, he said you'd say something like that you're angry about the divorce and making things up. I reached for my phone, hesitated, then showed her the evidence James had compiled, the forged signatures, the bank statements, the photos of Ethan and Vanessa together in situations that couldn't be explained away as business meetings. Ava's hands trembled as she scrolled through the images. Ava, I heard them on a video call yesterday, she said quietly. Vanessa was laughing about something, and she said, Claire's too old for Silicon Valley anyway. Dad just smiled. Tears filled her eyes. Ava, I thought she was just his business partner. I didn't want to believe. I reached across the table and took her hand. I know, sweetheart. I didn't either. My daughter straightened her shoulders, suddenly looking so much like me that it startled me. Ava, what can I do to help? The final piece of our plan clicked into place. The next week was a flurry of legal activity. Sarah filed for emergency injunctive relief based on the forged signatures. The judge, appalled by the clear evidence of fraud, issued a temporary freeze on all Reed Innovations assets pending a full hearing. Ethan, blindsided by the legal maneuver, left me a voicemail filled with such vitriol that I saved it as additional evidence. I didn't respond to his messages. I didn't react when he showed up at the house, demanding to talk. I simply handed him the court papers and closed the door. Through it all, I worked with Maya, our coalition of wronged women, and most importantly, Ava, who had access to Ethan's home computer and the technical skills to extract even more evidence. 2 days before the tech summit, I received a certified letter from Ethan's lawyers, offering a revised settlement double the original amount if I would drop the fraud case and sign a non-disclosure agreement. I ripped it in half without reading beyond the first paragraph. There wasn't enough money in the world to buy my silence now. The day before the summit, I decided to confront Vanessa directly. We met at a coffee shop in Palo Alto neutral territory. She arrived looking immaculate in a designer suit, her confidence radiating from every pore. Up close, she was even more beautiful than her pictures and younger than I had realized. Vanessa. I appreciate you reaching out, Claire, she said, her voice smooth as honey. I think it's best if we clear the air. Woman to woman. I studied her as she spoke, noticing the expensive watch on her wrist, a brand Ethan had given me for our 15th anniversary. Vanessa. Ethan and I didn't plan for things to happen this way. She continued, but you have to understand, technology moves fast. Companies need young, dynamic leadership. She smiled, showing perfect teeth. Vanessa, you had your time. Isn't it gracious to step aside now? The coffee between us cooled, untouched. Is that what you tell yourself? I asked quietly. That you're doing me a favor by stealing my husband, my company, and my money? Her smile faltered slightly. Vanessa, I didn't steal anything. Ethan chose to invest in the future in me. He sees something in me that he no longer sees in you. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. Vanessa, you can't compete with me. Claire, you're fighting a battle you've already lost. I allowed myself a small smile. You misunderstand me. Vanessa, I'm not here to compete with you. I'm here to warn you. I stood up, gathering my bag. You wanted the spotlight tomorrow. You'll have the attention of the entire tech world, just not in the way you imagined. Her confidence wavered visibly. I left without looking back, her voice calling after me. Vanessa. Claire, what does that mean, Claire? The morning of the tech summit dawned bright and clear, the San Francisco fog burning off early as if the city itself was eager for the drama about to unfold. I dressed carefully, a power suit in deep blue, my mother's necklace, minimal makeup that highlighted my natural features rather than trying to disguise my age. I wasn't going to war pretending to be someone I wasn't. Maya met me at the entrance to the convention center, press badge prominent around her neck. Maya, everything's in place, she whispered as we walked in. Rebecca got us VIP access. Diane's evidence is ready to go. Jennifer's rallied a group of former employees who are seated throughout the audience. She squeezed my arm encouragingly. Maya, and Ava says she's ready with the technical aspects. The main hall was already filling with tech industry elites, CEOs, venture capitalists, journalists, and influencers. I spotted Ethan near the stage, deep in conversation with a group of investors. He looked confident, resplendent in his signature blue suit, gesturing animatedly as he spoke. Beside him stood Vanessa, dressed in a striking red dress that drew every eye in the room. They looked like the perfect power couple, young, beautiful, successful. I took a seat in the back, waiting. The morning sessions passed in a blur of presentations and panels. After lunch came the moment we'd been waiting for. The MC stepped on stage, his voice booming through the speakers. MC, next up, we have one of the most anticipated presentations of this year's summit. Please welcome Vanessa Reed, founder and CEO of Reed Innovations, with special guest Ethan Parker of DataSphere Technologies. Applause filled the room as Vanessa strode confidently onto the stage, Ethan a step behind her. She approached the podium, her red dress catching the spotlight. Vanessa. Thank you all for being here today, she began, her voice clear and practiced. I'm thrilled to introduce you to what we believe is the future of artificial intelligence. Behind her, the massive screen displayed the Reed Innovations logo. Vanessa, but before I dive into our technology, I'd like to acknowledge the incredible support of my partner and mentor, Ethan Parker. She gestured toward Ethan, who stepped forward with a practiced smile. The audience applauded again. I checked my phone, a text from Ava, "Ready when you are, Mom." I texted back a single word, "Now." As Vanessa launched into her presentation, the screen behind her suddenly flickered. Her professional smile faltered. Vanessa, as you can see from our projections. The screen changed again, this time displaying a spreadsheet with highlighted transfers, $7 million from the Nguyen Parker Family Fund to Reed Innovations. Confused murmurs rippled through the audience. Vanessa tapped her clicker frantically, trying to return to her slides. Ethan stepped forward, whispering something in her ear. The screen changed again, this time showing split-screen security camera footage. On the left, Ethan and Vanessa in an intimate embrace in what appeared to be her office. On the right, documents with my signature, followed by close-ups comparing the forgeries to my actual signature. Gasps echoed through the hall. Vanessa, there seems to be some technical difficulty, she said, her voice rising in panic. If we could just have a moment. But the presentation continued without her control. An audio recording played through the speakers, Ethan's voice, crystal clear. Ethan recording, "Claire doesn't understand technology anymore. She's outdated. I needed someone young, someone who gets the current landscape. Once we secure this funding round, we'll phase her out completely." The color drained from Ethan's face as he recognized his own words. He rushed to the podium, trying to disconnect the presentation system. Vanessa stood frozen, her perfect composure shattered. I stood up and walked slowly down the center aisle toward the stage. The spotlight found me, illuminating my path. Ethan spotted me and froze, his hand still on the disconnected cables. "Ethan, Claire," he hissed. "What have you done?" I climbed the steps to the stage, my heels clicking decisively on each stair. The microphone was still on. "What I've done?" I said, my voice carrying throughout the hall. "I've exposed the truth." I turned to face the audience, hundreds of influential faces staring back at me. "My name is Claire Nguyen. I'm the co-founder and chief financial officer of DataSphere Technologies, and the money that funded Reed Innovations was stolen from my family through forged wire transfers and financial fraud." The room erupted in whispers and the frantic clicking of journalists taking notes. Ethan grabbed my arm, trying to pull me away from the microphone. Security approached the stage. Uncertain who they should be removing, I held my ground. As of this morning, the Superior Court of California has frozen all Reed Innovations assets pending criminal investigation. The funds have been returned to their rightful accounts. Vanessa lunged for the microphone. "Vanessa, this is slander. We have legitimate investment." "From whom?" I interrupted, my voice steady. "The investors you were planning to pitch today haven't signed anything yet, and the $7 million in seed funding that's been legally reclaimed." From the front row, a man in an expensive suit stood up, the CEO of a major venture capital firm. "VC CEO, Is this true, Ethan? You funded this company with stolen money. Ethan's face contorted between rage and panic. Ethan, it's a misunderstanding. Claire is bitter about our divorce. Vanessa turned on him, her composure completely gone. Vanessa, you told me that money was legitimate. You said she had approved the transfers. Their unified front collapsed in seconds as they turned on each other. Vanessa jabbed a finger into Ethan's chest. Vanessa, you forced me to falsify financial projections. You said we needed to exaggerate our growth to secure the next round. Gasps rippled through the audience as she inadvertently admitted to even more fraud. Ethan backed away from her, his face ashen. Ethan, Vanessa, stop talking. Security finally reached the stage, followed by 2 police officers. One of the officers approached Ethan. Officer Mr. Parker, we have a warrant for your arrest on charges of wire fraud and financial crimes. The other moved toward Vanessa. Officer, Ms. Reed, we have questions about your role in these transactions as well. I stepped back, watching as handcuffs were placed on my husband's wrists. His eyes found mine, filled with a mixture of hatred and disbelief. Ethan, you'll regret this, he spat. No one will ever work with you again. I met his gaze steadily. I built Datasphere once. I can build it again without you. As they were led away, Maya appeared at my side, her phone recording everything. Maya, Claire, you just exposed one of the biggest financial fraud schemes in recent Silicon Valley history. How does it feel? I looked around at the chaos we had created, journalists rushing for quotes, investors huddled in shocked discussion, the Reed Innovations logo still displayed on the giant screen. It feels like justice, I said simply. From the back of the hall, Ava emerged, her laptop tucked under her arm. She pushed through the crowd and ran up the stairs to the stage, wrapping me in a fierce hug. Ava, Mom, you were amazing, she whispered. Over her shoulder, I could see Maya filming our reunion, tears in her eyes despite her journalistic objectivity. I held my daughter close, feeling something break and reform inside me, not just my heart healing, but my confidence rebuilding. The aftermath unfolded rapidly. Maya's exposé was published that evening, detailing not just Ethan's fraud, but the pattern of behavior reported by our coalition of women. By morning, it had gone viral in tech circles, with industry leaders calling for investigations into similar cases across Silicon Valley. Sarah, my lawyer, called with news that the court had granted me full control of all Nguyen Parker assets, including my majority stake in Datasphere Technologies. 3 months later, I stood at the podium of a smaller but more significant event, the relaunch of Datasphere under my sole leadership. The company had been restructured, with a new focus on ethical AI development and a commitment to supporting women in technology. Ava stood beside me, having taken a semester off to help rebuild what her father had nearly destroyed. Technology is only as good as the values behind it, I told the assembled crowd of employees, investors, and journalists. At the new Datasphere, those values include integrity, transparency, and opportunity for all. I announced our first initiative, a fund for female founders who had been pushed out of the industry by discrimination or harassment. The first recipient would be Jennifer, whose stolen algorithm would finally be developed under her leadership. As applause filled the room, I caught Maya's eye in the front row. She gave me a thumbs up, her new book deal based on our story already generating buzz. Beside her sat Rebecca and Diane, now members of our advisory board. Surrounding me was a community I had never imagined women who had faced similar betrayals and emerged stronger. That evening, I stood in my office overlooking San Francisco Bay, watching the sunset paint the water in shades of gold. The door opened behind me, and Ava walked in, carrying 2 glasses of champagne. Ava, to new beginnings, she said, handing me one. We clinked glasses, the sound crisp and clear in the quiet room. To taking back what's ours, I replied. I looked out at the city stretching before us, the lights beginning to twinkle as dusk settled over Silicon Valley. I had lost my husband but found myself. I had been betrayed but discovered a strength I never knew I possessed. And most importantly, I had shown my daughter what it means to stand up for yourself, even when the odds seem impossible. The company wasn't just mine again, it was better than before. My life wasn't just continuing, it was evolving into something more authentic, and the story wasn't over. It was just beginning a new chapter. If you've made it this far, thank you for following my journey. Perhaps you have your own story of betrayal and redemption, or maybe you're still finding your way through the darkness. Either way, know that you're not alone. Share your experiences in the comments below, and remember to subscribe for more stories of women reclaiming their power and finding their voice. I'll be back tomorrow with another story that might just give you the courage to write your own ending. Until then, remember, sometimes losing everything is just the beginning of finding yourself.